Let's go, baby. Week 3 in the books, and we are live. I'm Andrew Cooper. This is Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco. Find me on Twitter at Coop Fiasco. We're backed by Fantasy Alarm. We're here on the Better Sports Network, and we're sponsored by FFPC. A lot to get through this week. On this show, on Monday, this is all business, strictly biz. We're hitting every single team, telling you what happened this week, what was different from last week, what we can look for moving forward, who's droppable, who's fantasy relevant, the whole deal. Just my thoughts on the entire day. I sat there with my newborn baby, had some family time, aka she doesn't really do a whole lot, so we just watch football all day. It's nice. It's actually beautiful. So let's get to it. First game here, we're going to go team by team alphabetical, just so that we can give you a look at every single team and be consistent week to week. So first one, Arizona Cardinals. My goodness, they come out and they beat the Dallas Cowboys. This week, people got slaughtered in their survivor pools. You lost the Jaguars this week. You lost the Cowboys this week. I look at this Cardinals team. Cheers, everybody trickling in the chat. What's up? We're going to get to some start sits. We'll answer your questions. Twitch gang, what's happening? But we got to go through some of these teams first. So when we get to that question, I see you, Ace Saucy, on Mostert, Christian Kirk. I'll get to that for sure. So clearly here's the problem that you run into with some of these teams. Some teams, it's the same players every single week. It's nice and easy. It's look at the Bengals, right? It's T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Irv Smith when he's healthy, Joe Mixon. That's it. It's easy. With this Cardinals team, you basically have Marquise Brown as the top dog. And then after that, they've been flipping and flopping it, right? The first week, it was Michael Wilson. He came out and played more snaps than Marquise Brown. And then the next week, he went on the back burner and they used two tight ends. And then this week they come out and they use Rondale Moore and they hand him the football. They get him going. Shout out Chris, shout out Albert. What's up in the chat? And the thing about the Rondale Moore usage this week that has me at least intrigued is that he got 3 carries, right? No one's expecting him to be Deebo Samuel. But if you go back and you look at like the 2020 season and you look at the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 range, the difference for Curtis Samuel and Chase Claypool were those carries. If you take away the carries and the touchdowns that they got running the football last year for Claypool and for Curtis Samuel in 2020, they're not wide receiver 2s. They're wide receiver 3s. So if we can get a guy that at least gets a couple carries a week, that could mean all the difference. And all right, Saucy, I see you in the chat. You got to go to work soon. Could you answer the question? Should you trade Mostert and Christian Kirk for A.J. Brown? I think I would. Because we've seen Christian Kirk play partial snap shares in some of these games when Zay Jones is healthy. And Zay Jones is going to be back. And I'm a little worried for Raheem Mostert. Obviously, he had 4 touchdowns yesterday, which was awesome. But Devon A-Chain came in, looked amazing himself. So it could be a bit of a split there. If one of those players isn't in your lineup, like Christian Kirk is just on your bench, think about it. People of the world, would you trade Raheem Mostert straight up for A.J. Brown? I think I would. So if you're not using Christian Kirk at all, I would go ahead and do that because Christian Kirk from week to week is going to be kind of a dicey option. So go ahead and do that trade. Let's go. Let's get it going. Fatty McFats, what's happening? Zach Ertz, he only played 36 snaps, and I'm concerned for him because his routes have been declining 3 weeks in a row now. The first week, he came out, played every single snap, got peppered with targets. Second week, he comes out, it goes down to 76% or so. Now we're down in the 60s. So I had moved Zach Ertz up based on the target share. I mean, even with this week, he's at a 25% target share, which leads all tight ends still. It still does to this very moment. But I don't know if it's going to trend in that direction. We got to keep an eye on him. Obviously, we're going to move him down. Guys like Sam Laporta, much more valuable than guys like Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz. The question ends up being, does a guy like Luke Musgrave become more interesting? And we'll look at that as well. The last thing for this Arizona Cardinals team, James Conner's a stud. He's going to play every single down. Basically, they're doing it like the Jaguars did when they were tanking with James Robinson or bridge year or call it whatever you want. This team is trying to lose. You don't cut DeAndre Hopkins if you're trying to win. So they released DeAndre Hopkins. This team has one of the lowest over-under win totals of any team. They beat the Cowboys this week. Who cares? The front office is probably pissed that they won this week, to be honest, because they're trying to get the first-round pick. Clearly, it's a bridge year, and they're willing to use James Conner like James Robinson for that Jaguars team. Awesome. I'll get him in there every single week because he's playing a massive snap share, getting all the touches, and he looks good out there. I see you, Ace Saucy. I would rather have DeAndre Hopkins than Christian Kirk moving forward, for sure. just because D Hop is locked in and Kirk. They coach straight up said there's going to be weeks where it's man coverage and you're going to see more Kirk. There's going to be weeks where the team primarily plays zone and it's going to be more Zay Jones. So not ideal, to be honest, if you ask me. So I'm going to go out and trade Kirk and Mostert for AJ Brown if I can. So next team, Arizona Cardinals. You look at the Atlanta Falcons. You look at everything on paper, as always with this team, and the usage is pretty good, right? Like you go out and you see how much Drake London plays. You look at Kyle Pitts got 9 targets and a carry this week. You can bring the horse to water, but you just can't quite make him drink. That's the problem that we have here. But it's not like he was a bad start for us in fantasy. We had him ranked high because this was an exact situation where he should be good with CJ Gardner-Johnson out for the Lions. And they gave him all the opportunities, but it just so happens that Desmond Ridder is not that good. So there's not much we can do about that. Our hands are kind of tied in that situation. So, we're probably going to have to fade him moving forward. Probably going to have to fade Pitts from where we have, even further from where we already faded him. So kind of ugly there. What are you going to do? Bijan Robinson, he got most of the work. Algier still got some carries, right? Like we don't want to see him mixing in the way he is, but he did. So what are you going to do? We just got to keep rocking with Bijan Robinson. He's awesome. He makes he makes it look good, but they're still going to use Algier, so we can't move Bijan up to like RB1 like we kind of wanted. Next team, Baltimore Ravens. We thought we were going to get the Gus Edwards show. For years, we wanted this situation where Gus Edwards can finally be the guy, right? Or anyone can just be the full-time guy. They never do it. We thought we kind of were going to get it, and then Gus Edwards got a concussion. So at the end of the day, the snaps are pretty split, right? You got a pretty good day from Gus before he got hurt, and then Melvin Gordon played out the rest of the game, and we'll have to monitor that. Are we going to add Melvin Gordon if Gus Edwards is out and Justice Hill is out? Maybe. I mean, honestly, it gets so dicey at running back that anyone that's going to be starting in any sort of position, we might have to go out and get him. So Melvin Gordon potentially on your radar as like a 1-week start. Sometimes it has to be that way. I had somebody complain to me on Reddit about Mark Andrews. Dude, you are lucky to have Mark Andrews. There are people out there who would be begging, killing for a Mark Andrews in this world. Somebody that would come out and get 5 targets, catch 4 balls. Please. Mark Andrews every single week start. This week he went out and played pretty much the whole game, ran 33 routes, which is the same as, Zay Flowers ran 38, but 33 from Mark Andrews. It's more than Rashad Bateman got. He's looking good. They replaced Odell Beckham Jr. with a combination of Zay Flowers and Nelson Aguilar and Rashad Bateman. So kind of hard. We would have liked just to see one of those guys come out and play a full snap share, like Bateman be the front runner and Aguilar just be on the back burner. Didn't quite happen. So not much we can do there. Buffalo Bills, they didn't look good early on, as they tend to do. Josh Allen came out through one of those deep interceptions like he almost always does these days. But at the end of the day, Sam Howell was atrocious. So they pulled this one out. With this team, it's kind of been the same for the wide receivers. You can start Diggs everywhere. Gabe Davis is the only other one worth a consideration. I know people get all excited about Khalil Shakir and Deontay Hardy and these guys. Khalil Shakir played 16 of 68 snaps. Hardy played 13. The guy that played the next most was Trent Sherfield, but he only ran 7 rounds. So it's basically Gabe and Diggs. Those are your main dogs. And then it's Kincaid and Knox. Now, the Kincaid train is taking off a little slower than the Sam Laporta one and even the Luke Musgrave one. We might have to rank those guys ahead, but it's promising that Kincaid played 25 snaps at wide receiver, only 11 in line, ran 23 routes. Knox played 15 at wide receiver, 25 in line. So clearly Knox is kind of the Dallas Goedert. Kincaid's in the Zach Ertz role. And this week, for the first time, according to Nathan Yonke of PFF, Kincaid actually ran the same number of routes out of 11 personnel as Knox. The guard is kind of changing here. I think they're realizing that Kincaid is just a better pass catcher, and he's going to be getting more opportunities moving forward. So that's where I'm at. I'm just rooting for that to change and for this guy to actually be treated like a full-time wide receiver the way some of these other guys are, the way Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce do, where they're out there every single play, playing wide receiver for like 70, 80% of the snaps. Mark Andrews plays 80% of his snaps at wide receiver. So that's what we want to see. I think it's only a matter of time. Some people, if you're hurting at other spots, you might need to make hard decisions. I'm trying to hold Dalton Kincaid wherever I have him. The number one move I was doing is waiting on tight end and drafting Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid. I'm starting Laporta, but I'm not dropping Kincaid. I'm stashing both. I think that there's room for upside there. Now, for running back for this team, James Cook has the vast majority of the role, and it's kind of how we knew it would be. He's the most explosive in space. He's the best catching the ball. He runs that Texas route he runs over the middle is unstoppable. It carved the Patriots up last year. This week you saw it again over the middle. He's great at catching the ball there and making one move and getting 10 yards. But the problem is they do lean on Josh Allen and Latavius Murray and Damian Harris in goal line situations. That's the one thing for this guy. But again, there are so many bad splits out there that I would much rather have this guy that's getting the pass work, getting the early down work, and just, you might not get 10 touchdowns, but that's okay, right? That's the one piece of the puzzle we're missing. But I'd rather have that than a split down the middle or some of these other teams that we're seeing. Carolina Panthers, Jonathan Mingo went to concussion protocol. So week 1, all 3 wide receivers that were on the team played virtually every snap. Mingo, Terrace Marshall, Adam Thielen. But DJ Chark wasn't in the mix. Last week, DJ Chark came back, and it was Terrace Marshall that took the hit. Mingo was playing a full snap share. Adam Thielen was playing a full snap share. They split. This week, with Mingo out, Thielen played all the snaps. So Adam Thielen right now, of all these guys, I know people were saying, Mingo has more upside. He's more exciting. But at least we know Thielen is fully locked in. This confirms that he's locked in. And when Mingo left, it was not Terrace Marshall that went back to a full snap share. It was DJ Chark that got the full snap share. So DJ Chark played 74 snaps. Adam Thielen played 74 snaps. Terrace Marshall played 47. Mingo played 26, right? And this game script you have to be very careful with because they threw 63 times. That's not going to happen every week. So you can't just take those targets and translate them from week to week. It's not going to happen that way. But so Thielen's locked in. Mingo, when he's healthy, he's good to go. The next question is, once Chark is ramped up, is it just going to be those 3 guys? Is Mingo going to take a step back? We'll have to see. But right now we know that Thielen at least is locked in. Terrace Marshall is a guy, not only is he droppable in redrafts because of the way he was utilized this week, but honestly, it's getting kind of close in Dynasty, where if there's somebody you need to add, you don't necessarily need to hold on to Terrace Marshall. And Laviska Shenault already was a guy that wasn't really playing much. Hayden Hurst, in theory, we like the idea that he could be a guy that splits the targets and gets a ton of targets on this team, but he only ran 39 of 63 routes, which now that we've seen it 3 weeks in a row, that's who he is. He's not going to run every single route. He's just not a full-time player on this team. He gets the bulk of the pass work for the tight ends, and you look at it and say, oh, he ran 39 routes. Well, I already told you they threw 63 times. So if he's running 39 routes, but DJ Chark's running 61 and Adam Thielen's running 57, he's just not a guy we can trust from week to week. There's too many other guys at the tight end position that are playing the whole game or at least are playing in a better offense. Miles Sanders, 52 snaps for him to 26 for Chuba Hubbard. He continues to be the guy in all phases. It's just, it is what it is. You're going to I drafted a ton of Miles Sanders and he just goes to my lineup every week. Do I expect him to be a high-end RB1 from week to week? No, but there's just so many situations where you put a guy in there and he does absolutely nothing. We're going to talk about a few of them today, or guys that are just splitting down the middle on teams where there's nothing available. That I'm just taking the fact that I have a guy that's getting 75% of the work and running with it. Just get him in your lineup. And if you're looking for somebody safe that's affordable to trade for, I don't think it's crazy to trade for Miles Sanders because he's also coming off of this groin injury. What happens if it turns out that he's actually still nursing a groin and he's not even at full strength, and they get things to go in here and Bryce Young comes back and he looks good, or even Andy Dalton plays a few games and looks good. I mean, Miles Sanders, I think, is one of the few guys that has a chance to have the full role and potentially produce better numbers than he has so far. So Miles Sanders still interesting to me. The Bears, nightmare with this week. There were a couple teams that just absolutely got crushed. Alex, thanks for popping in the chat. Thanks for subscribing. Appreciate you guys, man. That's what keeps this going. And that's what lets us do this every Monday and Friday and break down the week for you coming out, which I'm doing now, giving you, it's always good to go back and put numbers to what we saw, right? We can get tricked so easily. I mean, if I showed somebody a clip of Jerome Simpson doing a front flip into the end zone, people that never watch football, they would say, oh, is that the best player of all time? Right? That guy is obviously amazing, right? And I have to tell them, no, he actually just made one good play. He's not amazing. So we have to separate the vividness of what we saw from the actual underlying stats that are going to carry us from week to week. So this is the recap on Monday. And then on Friday, I bring in a guest and we do the predictions for what happens next week. Because that's what this is all about. This show, this is a show, the kind of show that my dad likes because he doesn't care about predicting next week. He wants to know what happened, right? He's a football fan. Football fans want to know what happened. Fantasy football players want to know what's going to happen. So Monday, we talk about what happened. That gets us geared up for waivers, gets us ready for what's going to happen. Thank you guys for subscribing. Awesome hanging out with you guys. So cheers to y'all. So Bears, absolute nightmare. Kind of the same usage, though, for everybody that we expect. DJ Moore and Chase Claypool on the outside. Darnell Mooney is the slot wide receiver in this offense, right? He's played 82 slot snaps this year, only 27 out wide. So that's how they're running it. 2 guys on the outside, him on the inside. That's how it's going to be. Whether Justin Fields can get him the ball or not, we don't know. Hopefully they're just still figuring things out, but it didn't look good once again. Cole Kmet is the one that's kind of scary. Week 1, he played 97% of the snaps. This week, down to last week, he went down to 67%. Once again, only 39 of 51. So, yikes. And that's why we go through and we look at the number of snaps too, because it can illustrate to us what weeks were, where we saw production that's not sustainable versus weeks that it could be sustainable. Like week 1, Cole Kmet, 72 of 74 snaps. That's great. This week, they only ran 51. The average is 65. So that week was an above average week. A lot more passes to go around, a lot more carries to go around. This week, below average. They're going to get back up to 60, 65. You're not just going to run 50 every week. We've got some examples of people that came out and did that. And Jared Moore asks, is Fields a buy low candidate for the rest of the season? I think so, man. I think he's potentially getting close to people wondering if they should drop him. People wondering, they're adding other people off waivers. And the reason he's a good buy low candidate is simple. Most quarterbacks just don't have the potential upside that he has if the ship gets right. If the Patriots come out and they're a great team, what's the upside for Mac Jones? His mobility is damn near zero. You saw him running this week. He looked terrified, right? Justin Fields, we know the upside is a 1,000-yard rusher. The upside is Lamar Jackson, right? So obviously you're buying a dangerous asset, but in a single QB league, I'm comfortable in my ability to find a fill-in quarterback. I just want as many high-risk, high-reward options as possible when it comes to this position. So I'm not feeling good about my quarterback as of right now, somebody that I thought I could trust, like a Dak Prescott, and clearly I cannot, you might as well just go for the upside, right? So I'm actually okay with buying Justin Fields, even if you go to my timeline and see the tweet that I sent about Justin Fields that has Justin Fields fans calling me racist. I'm not racist, dude. It's funny to say that Justin Fields could be the next Terrell Pryor, okay? There's no racism in that. Guys change positions all the time. Terrell Pryor changed position to wide receiver. Ryan Tannehill changed position from wide receiver to quarterback. Logan Thomas was a quarterback. Now he's a tight end. That stuff happens all the time. So settle down, Twitter. Let's not get carried away over some jokes. Is it acceptable to give up yet, Hal? As a Bears fan in general, this week had to be highly upsetting across the board. I don't even want to talk about the stuff going on with the defensive coordinator and all that. There's no reason to comment on it until we get more info. But I can say this. It's not good. And everything going on around this team is not good. So what are you going to do, man? The one thing that is intriguing for fantasy is the split between Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson. We want to see more Roschon. The split was pretty even this week, and Roschon looks better. And I don't care. The shiny upside of rookies is fun. The mystery box is fun. Khalil Herbert, I've seen enough Khalil Herbert. He is fine. What if Roschon Johnson is awesome? Look at Devon A-Chain this week. He comes out, doesn't play, and we're going to get to that shortly, but he comes out, hasn't played in the first few games. Fireworks, right? What happens if Roschon is just waiting to be unlocked and they just need to get him going? I know they just put their left tackle on IR, so it could be pretty rough, but just give the kid a chance. If the wheels fall off, just start giving these young guys a chance, man. So that's what's up. Before we get to the next team, I see Alex in the chat. What's happening, my dude? Traded Mike Williams and Kareem Hunt for Josh Jacobs and JSN. Did I win this? Yeah, dude. You easily won it, right? So Mike Williams, sucks that he got hurt, but even before Mike Williams got hurt, I think you won that one because Josh Jacobs is awesome. He's one of the very few full-time backs there are, though. So, you clearly won that trade with the injury, but even before that, I think you won it, man. So great job, my dude. And Hal, yeah. Oh, you're a Lions fan? Yeah. Lions are fun, but yeah, 0-3. You can't give up, man. Never give up. Always play for pride, dude. I don't care if my team's 0-7. I play for keeps, dude. Like I go back and I look at my history on Yahoo, and I care about my win loss over there. I care about my reputation. A lot of my leagues, if you come in last, you have to buy a keg or do something stupid. So I always play to win, man. Always play to win, and always play spoiler. It's just funny, man. If you can kick somebody out of the playoffs, that's just as funny. It's maybe even more funny depending who it is. So that's where we're at. That's the Bears. Bengals are playing tonight. Will be interesting to see if Jake Browning can do something. But I will say this: you can never rule these guys out. Obviously, the Tom Brady's and the Brock Purdy's and the Kurt Warners, the odds are incredibly low. They're incredibly low. But when Tom Brady went to that game, when Mo Lewis hurt a 10-year, $100 million Drew Bledsoe, everybody was saying, who is this guy? Who cares? It doesn't matter. The season's over. He's a nobody. That's what everyone was saying. Brock Purdy, everyone was saying the same thing. Mr. Irrelevant. That's what they said. Mr. Irrelevant because he's the last pick. It's possible, right? And Jake Browning tonight, whether you like the odds are stacked against him, he's probably going to be nothing. Most backup quarterbacks are nothing, but it's just cool that he gets this moment, right? He gets the moment. Very few people ever get that moment. So tonight he's going to get a chance to play unless Joe Burrow does come out and play. I've seen both sides of things. Chat, let me know if you know for sure if he's out or in, but the word is Joe Burrow could play or he could go on the IR and miss mandatory next 4 weeks. So it's up in the air. I personally, if I have Joe Burrow, if I'm making the decisions for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not playing Joe Burrow. I saw what happened to Aaron Rodgers when he had the calf injury that turned into Achilles. I saw what happened to Kevin Durant when he had the calf injury that turned into the Achilles. And this isn't the NBA Finals. Okay, this team can win this game versus the Rams. In fact, they're favored to win the game versus the Rams without him. But if you lose him to an Achilles, season's over. Season's over, and now everybody's sitting there saying, well, this season's over. T. Higgins is saying, where's my money? Right? Like everyone's done with this year, and it's just a nightmare. So I'd rather lose the next 2 or even 3 games if I have to and just trust that my team is good enough to push through and get a wild card, man. So, yeah, sit Burrow tonight is my advice to the Bengals, but who am I? I'm just got that thinks about this game nonstop every day. Cleveland Browns, DPJ, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, those guys are playing every snap. Now, the ideal situation for fantasy is ones like the 49ers or the Dolphins, where you have a couple pass catchers and then they insist on using multiple players that are not fantasy relevant. Alec Ingold playing 40% of the snaps as a fullback. Beautiful, dude. I think he got 1 carry this week and he got stuffed on 4th and 1. That's great. The more snaps that guy plays, the more opportunity there is to get the ball to the fantasy relevant guys. Kyle Juszczyk over there with the 49ers keeps it real tight as far as who's fantasy relevant. With this team, they used to do that. They used to do that with multiple tight ends. They're not doing it anymore. It's DPJ, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore. Amari Cooper is a focal point. You start him every single week. After that, it is a guessing game to a certain degree. I prefer Elijah Moore. He ran 34 routes to 31 for DPJ, got 9 targets to 4 for DPJ, got a couple carries, which is a difference maker, which is huge. But the fact that DPJ is playing a good chunk of snaps, don't love that. We would move Elijah Moore way up if this was like Njoku and Harrison Bryant playing massive snap shares. Still pretty good, though. I mean, 9 targets and 3 carries, we'll absolutely take that, and especially in a game where a kind of a get-right game where they won. They came out. It was supposed to be a close game versus Titans. Was not close. Was not close, man. The Titans are they are one of those teams that can win or lose any game at any time. That's why I never bet on the Titans. I've never bet against them either. It's just I'm just so off of that guessing game, the trenches game on whether Jeffrey Simmons is just going to destroy everybody or not. And Jerome Ford, I apologize for telling people not to start Jerome Ford. The sharp fantasy gamers, they were in my comments saying, you know what, we get it. Like it is a bad matchup. He had a bad game. He just scored 2 touchdowns. One was a receiving touchdown. The other one was towards the end. But you got to be pumped on Jerome Ford rest of the season. We were telling everybody, add Jerome Ford, add Kyron Williams, because these guys, you could start them for the rest of the year potentially. We're saying don't add Matt Breida, don't add Zach Moss, because you can only start those guys for 1, maybe 2 games. Jerome Ford, now we're feeling real good about. Kareem Hunt, I know it was his first game. He's going to get ramped up. But Ford played like the whole game. Hunt only played like 15 snaps. It will get closer to even, but got to be feeling good. If Jerome Ford can do anything at all against a team like the Titans, he's got possibility out there, man. So got to be fired up on that. Dallas Cowboys here. I mean, David Njoku, I just want to say that we cannot trust this player. He played 71 snaps this week. He only got 4 targets. Last week, I mean, they played a ton of snaps, throwing a ton of passes, only got 3. The first week he blocked on 6 pass plays. He and guys like Tyler Higbee, in any given week, they can go off, but it's just too inconsistent. From week to week, we need to be able to trust these guys. David Njoku he's out. He's out for me. If you can add a Luke Musgrave or, obviously Laporta's owned by now, or if somebody drops Kincaid, I would drop Njoku for Kincaid. Dallas Cowboys, 81 snaps this week. So well above average. Average is 65. So it's hard to take all the numbers and bottle them up and say, this is just going to be what it's going to be, right? You have to take into account that there was just more to go around this week. I mean, CeeDee Lamb ran 44 routes. Brandon Cooks ran 39. Michael Gallup ran 38. 6 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets. Now, Jake Ferguson also got 7 targets, but you have to be careful with a player like that. He only ran 29 of 47 routes, which for him, that's actually great. This was the first time he ran more than 50% of the routes. So maybe he will get ramped up. And honestly, Dak Prescott looks so bad that maybe he really just is not good at reading defenses and can't find guys like Brandon Cooks and is just going to dump it down to Jake Ferguson. That would be great for Jake Ferguson. Just keep in mind that Ferguson running 29 routes, Hendershot running 18. Not ideal, man. Not ideal. Jake Ferguson is he's a fairly boring option. People are going to be like, oh, Dak loves the tight end and the end red zone targets and blah, blah, blah. Jake Ferguson, he's going to have a couple games like this that are pretty solid, and he's going to have games like last week. I mean, the first 2 weeks, he only had 11 yards. This is the first time he cracked 11 yards. So just be very careful with a player like Jake Ferguson. If Jake Ferguson is my tight end, maybe I start him, but I'm still stashing as much upside as possible. Jake Ferguson and Luke Musgrave would be a pretty decent combo at safe but boring Ferguson and upside stash in Musgrave. So that's where we're at. Tony Pollard, gotta love it. 70 snaps. No one's doing that. It's the Tony Pollard show. So people that hung on to Pollard in Dynasty, traded for Pollard in Dynasty, or just drafted him in redraft, got to be pretty pumped on that. Denver Broncos this week, my God. It's so hard. These games end up just being such a mess. It's so hard to evaluate them. For the Dolphins, we're not even going to really look at it, to be honest. Like we got a couple notes, but you can't really pull much from the numbers here. All I can tell you is that Courtland Sutton looked pretty good. Russ missed him he should have had 2 touchdowns. Russ missed him on an easy one. And Jerry Jeudy's getting ramped up, so he's looking good too. Marvin Mims is a stash still. Only 15 snaps again, which is infuriating because last week he had 89 yards on only like 15 snaps, and he returned a punt for 45 yards. This week he plays 15 snaps, returns a kick for 98 yards. Just play this player. How do you get blown out like that and just keep rolling Brandon Johnson out there? Brandon Johnson had a penalty that got a touchdown called back because he didn't get set when he was going in motion. Like Brandon Johnson is hurting this team besides the fact that he's not doing anything. I mean, he caught the Hail Mary. Great. The ball was popping around. That isn't some individual special effort, right? Brandon Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, I'm done. Give me Courtland Sutton. Give me Jerry Jeudy. Give me Marvin Mims. Take all these other guys. I don't ever want to see them. Get them out of here, dude. Who cares? Brandon Johnson? Are you kidding me? Enough. Sorry about that. Javonte Williams, he's still splitting the pass work with Samaje Perine. Now, this week was good for Williams because he got more carries like he has been the whole time, but he played 14 pass plays. He ran 12 routes. Samaje Perine ran 12 routes. Now it's split even passingly, and he's getting more passingly. That's not a word. The passing is split evenly, and Javonte Williams is getting the rush work. Yeah, that's what we want. We want Javonte Williams ramped up. Let's just use our good players. Sean, what are you doing? Why is Adam Trotman getting 2 targets at all? He should be getting no targets. Why are Adam Trotman and Chris Maynard's playing? Just forget them. Like, if you're going to lose by 50 points, put Marvin Mims out there and see what the hell happens, right? Like, what are you doing? Why is Russell Wilson playing the whole game? What the hell was that? Why Russell Wilson's out there when you're down by 50? You outside of your mind? Just absolutely crazy. the Sean Payton, the whole thing might just be a complete disaster. The gigantic waste of money on all sides. And I know coaches don't count against salary cap like Russell Wilson does, but ownership is not easy to get out of those deals. They're locked into whatever they got going on. So hopefully they figure it out. Obviously, it's not going to be this bad ever. So there you go. Really, really nice of Mike McDaniels to not kick that field goal at the end and not embarrass the Broncos, right? He said that they didn't want to kick the field goal and set the record for most points in the game to not embarrass the Broncos. That was nice of them. Luckily, the Broncos can walk away from this game not feeling embarrassed by that field goal if they had done that. So that was really, really nice of McDaniels. It's not even his fault, though. His players are just crazy fast. I saw a stat, I think it was Field Yates posted it, that the NFL, they track the on-field speed. The top 5 players in on-field speeds on individual plays for this year are all on the Dolphins. It's Tyreek Hill 1, A-Chain this week was 2 on the list, Raheem Mostert's 3, and that's Tyreek Hill pretty much the entire rest of the list. Like, unbelievable. They're unstoppably fast. And this guy, Devon A-Chain, that's a guy that you absolutely have to add. I'm just going to talk about the Dolphins right now because, it was a non-game. It doesn't really matter. And, Chosen Anderson and all these guys are getting in at the end. They had the backup quarterback in, Mike White. I mean, so it doesn't really matter. But I'll tell you this: A-Chain should be on waivers in 0 leagues, and you have to throw everything at him. It doesn't matter if Mostert starts. Mostert played the entire first drive, and Mostert scored 4 touchdowns. This offense is electric. They use the fullback. They use Alec Ingold, so it highly consolidates things among Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Durham Smythe is even an option from time to time. Not an amazing one, more of a DFS play, but hell, like they're consolidating the targets. And this guy A-Chain, crazy fast, 99th percentile. And people talked about the weight and how he, isn't NFL size, and he did get hurt, but he hurt his shoulder in preseason. But he's going to bulk up. Like, this is a guy I'm trying to get in Dynasty for sure. He said himself that he's never had an offseason to bulk up because he always did track. When you're that fast, you have to do track, right? So every offseason, he never was able to put on muscle, put on weight because he was trying to be fast all the time. Now it's not just about being fast, which he already is no matter what. It's about being a NFL caliber running back, and I think this guy is that. And Raheem Mostert's 31 years old, and he's been hurt every single season virtually. So, it just gives you A-Chain is now a high-end handcuff plus, and Raheem Mostert is also a handcuff plus. You start those guys wherever you have them. If you have them both, start them both. I mean, they're electric. They're awesome, right? And I see you guys in the chat. What's happening? Love Neek. Yeah, hit me up on Twitter at Coop A Fiasco. COOPAFISCO, like Lupe Fiasco. Send me a screenshot of your team over there. See you guys on the Twitch. Let me get the Twitch gang glasses on. Shout out Twitch. We love when you guys pop in, hang out with us, man. It's cool stuff, dude. Twitch is a cool platform. So I'm glad we're up over there. We weren't up over there all the time. Yeah, I'll check it out right now, man. Thanks. Yeah, send it in the DMs, post it on the timeline, do what you got to do. Yeah, Mile High, Luke, I see you. Damn you, Smythe is right, dude. DraftKings, yeah, you won in DraftKings, but would have won with capital letters. Me too, man. I had Smythe in some spots. I mean, it was a good spot for him because there was no Waddle. There was no Justin Simmons on the other side, the safety. So you did the right thing getting them in lineups. That's why we make multiple lineups, right? It's like you can't – Durham Smythe is a play, but he wasn't a core play of our lineup. So you got to mix and match, baby. So, yeah, that's it on the Dolphins, dude. There's not much else you can say. They're just amazing, man. They're just amazing. Detroit Lions, dude, speaking of amazing, our guy, Sam Laporta, the Teleporta. We call him Teleporta because he, broke 6 tackles in the bowl game. He broke 23 tackles as a senior. He didn't have to break many tackles because he just was wide open on that touchdown. And, boy, peppered 11 targets. And the numbers have been trending up for him. First week, he blocked on a bunch of pass plays, didn't play a full snap share. Second week, that came down to 3, and, he was playing a lot. And then this week, of course, goes out, goes ham, runs 28 routes, which is second only to Amon-Ra St. Brown. The one thing we want to see is we want to see him play more wide receiver snaps. He still plays a lot of inline, but who cares, man? He's an every week starter right now, Laporta. I'm moving him up to in my rankings, my yin and yang rankings, I'm just moving him up to standalone tier. I trust this guy now. I trust him every week, especially if ARSB is going to have the turf toe. We'll have to monitor that. That's something that doesn't usually get better right away or even at all. Basically, what sucks about this injury is you just go out and you can play with it, and it hurts like hell, and it hurts like for a couple days, and then you start feeling better, and you say, I can play, and then it hurts, and that's just what the whole year is a lot of times. And for some of these guys, if it's real bad, it can potentially affect their career. I hate to say it, but I mean, we've seen it. But Damian Tomlinson was the best player in football, the best offensive player in football that wasn't a quarterback for multiple years, and then he got turf toe, and then he just kind of fizzled. Sorry with Sean Alexander. Sean Alexander was scoring like 25 touchdowns a year, 25 for the Seahawks. He was unbelievable. Then he got turf toe, roughed up, man, roughed up. So be careful with the turf toe. He's playing with the metal in his shoe. You still got to start him every week. It's good for Laporta. Josh Reynolds absolutely rug pulled us all. I mean, he still played 54 snaps, and next week he's probably a DFS play where people are going to be way off of him. But I don't know, man. Tough to start that guy given he just went out and didn't have a single target. He got just taken away by A.J. Terrell. A.J. Terrell didn't go in the slot and to cover ARSB or cover Laporta. They just said, hey, why don't you take Josh Reynolds out of the game? And they just held hands for the entire game. So what are you going to do there? Jahmyr Gibbs got to be pumped. He got the bulk of the work in all phases. We were worried about, the red zone and all that. And, maybe they will use Craig Reynolds or Donovan Knight in the red zone, which is fine. Because if he's going to get 17 carries and run 17 routes and, play double the snaps of the next highest guy, awesome. Jahmyr Gibbs, excellent. Let's go, baby. Let's do it. So quick, just want to mention you guys, I've been doing, now that we're in season, the FFPC weekly DFS, and it's awesome. It's better than the regular weekly stuff because you can pick anybody you want. The only caveat is can't pick two guys from the same team, right? So go over to my FFPC right now, use promo code Coop, and they'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. And one of these entries is 35. So it's $35 or $200. You can do 10 teams, 30 teams, or 100 team contest. The 10 team contest, if you win, you get an entry into the My FFPC leagues next year. The one I'm in, $350 buy-in one. If you win that, you've won a high stakes league. The Fantasy Pros will give you a shout out. Everybody will give you a shout out. You can put in your profile, say you're an FFPC high stakes champion, right? Like it's super cool. The $30 ones and the $100 ones, those pay out big weekly amounts. So definitely want to check that out. It's cooler to me than the other ones because there's no salary, which is so annoying. You have to take every week I take guys out of my salaried lineups, the guys I love because I don't have an extra $100. That doesn't happen here. The other thing is that with the salary, with the other ones, is if you stack certain teams and those teams go crazy, then you just win and it's not even fun. Like if you didn't have a bunch of Dolphins in your lineup on those other platforms, then it was over for you, Whereas in this one, you can only start one guy from each team. So you couldn't have started Mostert and A-Chain and Tua and Hill and all those guys. You couldn't do that here. You can only pick one of them, right? So it's super cool from that standpoint. I love that part of it. The other thing is that you go in and you look and you get to Monday and you can still swap guys out. So it's the whole slate that you do. So I'm still in one right now, and now we're into the gamesmanship. So let me pull it up and show you guys what I'm talking about. So my team, look at my team this week. Patrick Mahomes, 28 points. Pollard, 15. Kenneth Walker, 2 touchdowns, 30. Mike Williams went off, 121 yards. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson, 115 a touchdown. Look at Amari Cooper, 24 points. Devontae Adams, 42. But because I had Kyle Pitts and Nico Collins, they let me down. I'm actually still in 5th right now. I might not come in the money. I might not win this one. In the big one, the 30-person one, if you finish top 5, you get paid out. If you finish 1, you get paid out big. But here's the cool thing, right? You look at it now, and you got this guy Ozzy in first place with 231. I have 211. I still have a player to go. He has a player to go. So I look at it and I'm like, is he starting Mike Evans? Is he starting Chris Godwin? Do I want to pivot to somebody else tonight? Like you can go in and pivot. Like I can change now. So like if let's say this guy, the Raiders ahead of me, he has 2 players left. He just wants to start the best 2 players. This guy here in second place with 226 versus 231, he and I are in the same boat. Not only do we need to start a guy that we think can do well, but we need to look at Ozzy and say, who does Ozzy start? You know what I mean? We got to try and pull one over on him. You need somebody. So for me, I need somebody that can get 20 more points than Ozzy. So I got to stick with Chris Godwin. I think he's the best play tonight. Somebody like the second place guy here or the vet, they're maybe playing a little gamesmanship where it's like, okay, who do I think is not like the number one guy, but can give me 5 more points than this guy. So it's really cool. Go over to my FFPC, use promo code Coop right now. They'll give you 25 when you deposit 35 or more. It's the same format as their super famous format, the playoff one. That's the best one, where that one you pick teams and you have them for the whole time, and you can't pick players on multiple, on multiple platforms. So that's the way to do it there. Definitely go check that out. It's my favorite one right now, to be honest. I still, obviously, I write the DFS articles. We take it very seriously. People have been Latin. I mean, we've been crushing with the tight end picks for DFS and all that. So I still play some of those other ones, but this one's quickly becoming my favorite one just because the lineups are crazy. And on Friday, when I bring my guest on, we're going to do Sam Wagman from Football Guys this week. Super fun guy, just a real good quality guy, man. Just the heart on this kid. He's the best. It makes me smile. So it's going to be fun, making a team with him, picking the slate. Make sure you join us on Friday for that. Let's get back to the games, and we'll wrap these puppies up. Lovnik, I did see your tweet and your stuff there. We only have 20 minutes here, so I'm going to have to hit you on the flip side. When I pop off, I'll send you my thoughts via DM or on the Twitter sphere where you sent me that. But really appreciate you popping and getting that stuff up there. But I got to get through these. If I can get through all of them, then we'll jump on it. There's no Blitz this week. She's just doing Friday now. So, I mean, if we got to go overtime, we go a little overtime, man. It's our world. So that's where we're at. Green Bay Packers, next team up. Still no Christian Watson, but we kind of know what the deal is, right? If you look at what they're doing, it's Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks on the outside, Jaden Reed in the slot. Pretty easy here. When Christian Watson returns, you take Dontavian Wicks, put him back over here on the bench. And then it's Doubs and Watson on the outside and Jaden Reed in the slot. So we can be cool with all those guys. Luke Musgrave is the dog here. He played 68 snaps, ties Romeo Doubs to lead the team in snaps, runs 43 routes, right, which leads the league again. And not the league, leads the team again. This is 3 weeks in a row that Luke Musgrave has either tied or led the team in routes run. So Luke Musgrave, it's wheels up time, baby. But this is another example of a game where when you look at last week and you look at this week, it's not always going to be like this on either side. Last week, the Packers only played 50 snaps. That's why, Luke Musgrave only got 3 targets. Everything was muted. This week, 79 snaps. The average is 65. So if you really want to sit back and look at it, if you take last week and this week and average those together, those are probably more realistic numbers of what you would see. It's as easy as that. So you look at Watson, Reed, Doubs, like these guys, when this team is running a normal game, you're not going to see that much. You're not going to see 11 targets for Doubs and 6 for Wicks and 7 for Reed and 8 for Musgrave. It's going to be muted a little bit, but that's why we want to track who's playing what snaps so that in normal game scripts, we know who can actually do it and who can't. Like, don't go out and add Wicks because he, even though he got 6 targets at 6 of 42, that target share is 1/7 of the actual target share, which when you throw a normal amount of times, like 30, 35 times, that's not 6 targets, right? That's like 4 or 3. It's just not fantasy relevant. A.J. Dillon didn't quite get the full role. They call up Patrick. This team, the fact that they just have Patrick Taylor available whenever Aaron Jones is out and nobody ever comes in and swoops him off the practice squad, it's a valuable player to have in real life. He came in, split the pass snaps, played decent. I mean, it is what it is. But A.J. Dillon's still a guy you start everywhere if you got to. Jordan Love. Is Jordan Love going to turn into a pumpkin? Not necessarily, but the thing is you had to temper expectations because he wasn't coming out and throwing 300 yards, right? The guys we can rely on, they throw for 300, 400 yards. Like 3 touchdowns is cool, but touchdowns can be fluky. I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes with the shovel passes and, the shovel pass touchdown that Tua threw with his right hand and all that. Like, I would rather see a quarterback going out and doing what Kirk Cousins does and throw for 300, 250, 300, 400 yards than to have a guy just throwing touchdown passes. So we were kind of due for a regression there from the first place. I don't think he's going to turn into a pumpkin, though. I think he's a solid player, but he's not going to throw 3 touchdowns every week. You just can't count on that. So that's the way she is. On the Texans, we saw the opposite, right? So with the Packers, they only played 50 snaps last week. This week, they go up to 80. Texans last week played 84. This week, only 56, right? So you look at Nico Collins and Robert Woods and Tank Dell, they played the same snap share, right? They played the same percentage of snaps that they played in the past, but there was just less of an urgency, less of like crazy game script, and they were winning. So they didn't need to throw a million times. So Nico Collins only gets 3 targets. He doesn't get 10 targets. And Nico Collins is probably more of a 5, 6, 7 target guy than a 10 target a week guy. Anybody that thought he was going to get 10 targets every week just wasn't paying attention. Just was not paying attention to the scripts. There will be plenty of times where this team is down by a bunch and they need to throw 40, 50 times. This week they only throw 28 because they won. So that's the way it's going to be. Tank Dell looked pretty good. Robert Woods is still hanging around. And Robert Woods played 43 snaps to 34 for Tank Dell. So Tank Dell still is a part-time player. He's a small in stature. He's only 5'8", despite his name making it sound like he's a monster. Him and Lil Jordan Humphrey need to swap nicknames. It should be Lil Nathaniel Dell and Tank Humphreys, because Tank Humphreys like 6'4", 225. They call him Lil. And this guy is called Tank. He's 5'8". So maybe switch that around. John Mechie, we had hopes for him, but he only played 15 snaps. So maybe it turns around at some point, but you don't have to hold on to John Mechie anymore. Dalton Schultz, he falls into the Hayden Hurst land of not quite, right? The land of not quite playing enough, not quite getting enough targets. He still doesn't block on a lot of pass plays. He runs a lot of routes, but you need C.J. Stroud to be better. So for now, Dalton Schultz is just kind of a guy. Jake Ferguson, Dalton Schultz, Hayden Hurst. If you have no one else, you throw him in the lineup. Durham, Smythe, boring. But I want to have somebody stashed on the bench that has some upside. I want to make sure I have a Luke Musgrave, a Dalton Kincaid. I want a path to upside somewhere on my team. Dameon Pierce, this is the game where he should have gone off. Positive game scripts should be good for Dameon Pierce. Not quite there. And Devin Singletary, it's almost like, think of it like this with Dameon Pierce. We need the positive game scripts because when they pass a ton, he comes out for guys like Mike Boone and Devin Singletary. But in this case, they were up by so much that they use the backups, right? So it's like you need a game script where they're winning and they need to run the clock, but it's close enough that they're not going to take Dameon Pierce out of the game. It's like the needle is just so hard to thread, right? It's just too hard to thread. So Dameon Pierce is just not really the guy that we hoped he would be. And Singletary and Boone aren't really that good either. And this team does use the same offense as the 49ers and Dolphins. So Andrew Beck played 28 of 56 snaps, which that should consolidate the targets to a certain degree in a lot of weeks. And shout out Andrew Beck. Anyone that saw that kickoff return, that is like what you dream about when you whatever position you play, you always have these like dreams, right? Like when I played safety, the dream, of course, is always to like pick six it, right? Or like do like some crazy lateral to somebody or something, right? And when you're a defensive lineman, your dream is to like break through the line and intercept the shotgun snap or intercept the pitch and take it to the house. Like you're always like daydreaming about what could be the thing. And same thing with the kickoff team. You're always thinking, well, what if they kick it to me and then I take it to the house? And they were trying to do some like bloop kick. They kicked it to fullback Andrew Beck. 85-yard house call. I mean, he'll remember that forever. That is something that you're a fullback, dude. That's all you're thinking about. You're just thinking, what if they kick it to me and I just do something really cool? So it's super cool that actually happened for him. That kickoff is up there with the Dan Conley Patriots kickoff. He was a guard and he got to the 5-yard line. If I could go back and change any play and put Dan Conley in the end zone on that play, that would be the one. It was so close to being like the all-time best play in football, man. Would have been awesome. Anyway, Indianapolis Colts, Minshew mania is here. Warning, though, 84 offensive snaps. That's not sustainable. Whatever you saw this week is not what it is, right? Teams that go out and play like 60, 65 snaps, normal schedule, like that's what it is. This is not what this team is. 84 snaps is a ton, right? So Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce played. Michael Pittman continues to play the entire game. Last year, he led all wide receivers with like a 98% snap share. This week, they played 84 snaps. You'd think they would give this guy a break. He played 84 snaps. Michael Pittman is so dialed in, man. I feel very comfortable putting him in lineups every week because I know he's going to play every snap. Alec Pierce, on the other hand, plays every snap. He played 81. And this week, he got 7 targets, but Josh Downs got 11. Michael Pittman got 11. They threw 41 times. They ran 84 snaps. Zach Moss got 30 carries. Like, that's not going to happen every week. And honestly, even though Alec Pierce is getting the snaps over Josh Downs consistently is getting more targets. And I think I have to move Josh Downs ahead of Alec Pierce. And if the day comes where they decide Josh Downs is good enough to get the Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin slot role, we call them slot wide receivers, but the reality is they play slot and 3 wide. And then when it's 2 wide receiver time, somebody else comes out and they move out wide. Think about Chris Godwin. 3 wide, he's in the slot. When it goes to 2 wide, they don't take Godwin out. They move him outside. Right now, Josh Downs is being used like Tyler Boyd, where when it goes 2 wide, it's T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. When this team goes 2 wide, it's Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. We need Josh Downs. If that ever flips, right, now it's wheels up for Josh Downs. So I'll let you know if that happens. That's what we do on the show. We recap it. We tell you what's going on. But right now, it's not quite there. It's just not quite there. But we definitely want to stash him. How would I trade A-Chain away? Not in Dynasty. Definitely not in Dynasty. But in redraft, consider what you're getting. Consider what you're getting back because they're not going to score 70 points every week. And Raheem Mostert is still a guy, and they're still going to split. There's no reason. In our minds, we always say, oh, well, just use my guy because my guy's awesome. Why would we split? We'll just use my guy because he's the best. Whether it's Mostert or A-Chain or whoever, just use, we'll just use one running back. Whereas this team is thinking, oh, great, we have 2 running backs. We don't need to use one running back, right? Yeah, Dylan, throw them in the chat. We're going a little overtime today, so throw your questions in the chat. We'll get them going. Yeah, Minshew Mania, baby. It's electric. Home game Minshew. I wish this game was at home because when he wins at home, he hangs out in the field forever, signing autographs and dapping people up, hanging out. So super cool there. Just to wrap this team up, Zach Moss, megastar, played like every snap. You get one more week of the Zach Moss show before Jonathan Taylor comes back, and then he disappears probably. Unless Taylor gets traded or something, then he's probably just going to go back to being dust. Andrew Ogletree returned. He had started previously, but Kylan Granson still ran 33 routes, 10 for Ogletree, 5 for Molly Cox. That's one hurdle for Kylan Granson. He's a DFS play right now. Interesting enough to throw in there. The next hurdle is Jelani Woods. Let's see what happens week 5. Jelani Woods still worth an IR stash, but hey, Kylan Granson, he's doing a little something. So kind of interesting. Jacksonville Jaguars out here. 73 snaps, so a little above average. Obviously, ugly game for them. They lost to the Texans. The Texans just have their number somehow. Kind of ridiculous. Kirk Cousins led the team, followed by Calvin Ridley. Sorry, not Kirk Cousins. Christian Kirk. Kirk Cousins is a very Christian dude, so maybe that's why my mind said Christian Kirk is Kirk Cousins, but this is Christian Kirk, the wide receiver, not the Christian Kirk that is a Christian. Christian Kirk led with 63 snaps, 59 for Ridley. With Zay Jones out, they just took Jamal Agnew and threw him at wide receiver, even though he's like a hybrid wide receiver, running back, kick returner. But he only played 41 snaps, so don't worry too much about that. So Tim Jones, Jamal Agnew, not interested. Zay Jones will be back soon. Evan Ingram, 52 snaps, 39 routes run. He ran more routes than Calvin Ridley. Evan Ingram is about as safe as they make him right now. So you got to be pumped on him if you got him at a good price. And then Travis Etienne, played 52 snaps. Tank Bigsby only played 9. D'Ernest Johnson played 12. Tank Bigsby vultures the goal line touchdown. Welcome to the world of fantasy football. That's just how that happens, dude. If your guy is having a great game and he's the lead back and he's the star, they're going to do something just to annoy you, right? Devin A-Chain breakout game. Raheem Mostert scores 4 touchdowns in it. So, yeah, we got the question here from Dylan before we go to the next team. 12-team full PPR. Anthony Richardson, Pollard, James Cook, Herbert, Spears, Elijah Mitchell, Diggs, Ayuk, Hopkins, Tank Dell, Andrews. Trades. Think wide receiver 2 and RB3 upgrades. Who would you package it for what type of player? James Cook is a guy I would honestly try and move just because he's not getting the goal line work. If you could take, because you're deep at wide receiver. I like Diggs, Ayuk, Hopkins, MT. I love Michael Thomas. So I'm going to keep Michael Thomas personally. If you can take Ayuk and Hopkins and James Cook, one of Ayuk or Hopkins and James Cook, and package them for just a upgrade at wide receiver, an upgrade at running back, somebody you can truly, truly trust, I would be okay rolling with Diggs, Hopkins, Michael Thomas, and Hollywood. So if you could take an Ayuk and a James Cook and trade them for like a Joe Mixon or better, you're probably not going to get like a Josh Jacobs or anything like that, but somebody that you just fully locked in, dialed in, trust, then I would try and do that, dude. Trade Kenneth Walker for Jamar Chase and PPR. Yeah, you just got to take that chance on upside because we've seen Chase play at the same level as Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase was like a wide receiver 2 last year. He missed like a third of the season. So if you can just get him, then get him. The other thing is that these rookies get ramped up, man. So Kenneth Walker is Kenneth Walker now, but Charbonnet could play a little more here, a little more there. Devin A-Chain, week 3, just came in, played a bunch. It's like they get ramped up. Look at Roshan Johnson went from being a part-time player to being playing 1/3 of the snaps. This week he played half the snaps, right? It's like that's how it goes with rookies. So Charbonnet, we love Kenneth Walker. Don't trade Kenneth Walker just to trade him. But if you can trade him for Jamar Chase, do it. Do it. Let's go. Kansas City Chiefs. Kelsey is the king of the world. That means that there's one other spot for fantasy relevant options. And Dustin, appreciate you popping in and say that. I asked the chat earlier. I said, let me know if you get any Burrow news. There's a rumor. Burrow playing tonight. So I waxed poetic earlier about Jake Browning and the possibility for him. Well, that might have to come another day. So Joe Burrow's going to play. I don't personally like it. If Joe Burrow goes out and God forbid, ruptures an Achilles or really does some damage to his calf, now the season's over, right? And honestly, it's like I don't want people clipping that or saying blah, 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 because that is the reality of a calf injury. I mean, we saw it with Aaron Rodgers. We saw it with Kevin Durant. So it's not even a crazy prediction or a hot take or a jinx or anything. If you have a guy that says my knee hurts and you play him and he tears his ACL, then that's on you. That's actually not bad luck. That's not bad juju. So if you have a guy that says my calf hurts and he goes out and tears his calf or he tears his Achilles, that's not some prediction. That's not some black magic. That's just you played a guy that was hurt and he got even more hurt. So just watch out for that. I don't love to see it, dude. Travis Swift in the chat and with the devil emojis. Honestly, people are like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing it. I love that stuff, man. I'm part of the media. I enjoy the drama. And I love the people that are tweeting about it. They're like, I'm sick of this drama. It's like, then just don't talk about it. Don't tweet about it. You're contributing to it. You love it. You love that Taylor Swift was there because people are clicking your tweet and they're liking it. So miss me with that, dude. All the drama. Give me all the drama. Drama's awesome. It's hilarious. Gives us something to talk about, dude. We're doing a one-man show here. We need drama. We need more of it. Load it up. Send it my way, right? I want the smoke. I want the drama. I want people quote tweeting my Justin Fields tweet, getting upset. Like, that's fun, man. Fantasy football is fun. Being part of this community is hilarious, right? Like, it's a good time. So, Hal, it's not voodoo, okay? So, yeah, give me all that stuff. Give me the smoke. Would I trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for Tony Pollard? Absolutely. Tony Pollard's amazing. If Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't have turf toe, I would still trade him straight up for Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard played 70 snaps this week. No running back is doing that ever. In a losing game, he played 70 snaps. Are you kidding me? Tony Pollard, if we were to redraft, I mean, where do you take Tony Pollard? Like 5 overall? 4? I mean, I don't know, man. Tony Pollard, awesome, dude. Awesome. For years, I was out on Tony Pollard because they weren't using him. They were using Zeke. This year, I've been very much in. It's been a lot of fun. Tony Pollard's really cool. And Amon-Ra St. Brown playing with metal in his foot didn't look like Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. Yeah, you can do that trade. Do it right now. Do it real quick. Who's Taylor Swift? I don't know. Travis Kelce's girlfriend or something. I know she's like a country something. I'll have to do a deep dive on her. Has anyone done a deep dive yet? It's so funny. I see the Swift fans. They're like, has anyone done a deep dive on this Travis Kelce guy? Right? It should be. We're on the other side. We're like, has anyone done a deep dive on this Taylor Swift lady? Is she nice? Is she going to be nice to our boy Travis? Right? But yeah, on that side, that's where the Swifties are coming in. They're like, I watched his podcast. He seems like a meatball. I'm like, yup. You watched the right podcast, dude. There's actually 2 meatballs on the Jason and Travis Kelce podcast, and it's awesome. So, yeah, he is a meatball. He's our meatball, and he's the king. So, because Travis Kelce's the king, that means there's room for maybe one other fantasy relevant player there. And honestly, we're all rooting for somebody. I'm rooting for Rashee Rice, right? People are rooting for Sky Moore. Folks are rooting for Kadarius Toney. But the numbers tell us right now that Sky Moore is the closest. He played 50 of 77 snaps. MVS played 41 of 77, but the way he operates, the way he plays, not conducive to consistency. He's a field stretcher, high ADOT. He will score a big, long touchdown. Who knows when it will be? Very cool in best ball, not in what we're looking for. Rashee Rice this week got ramped up 39 snaps, right? 39 snaps, but, he was out there actually playing while Patrick Mahomes was. It was a blowout. Some Mahomes came out, but he actually tied Sky Moore for targets from Patrick Mahomes, which is important to us, right? Because the upside lies with these rookies. So I am rooting for Rashee Rice. I'm rostering him over Sky Moore, but I like Sky Moore too, right? So you gotta balance it. Don't drop Sky Moore, but I mean, I honestly would probably rather have Rashee Rice just because we just don't know what the ceiling is, right? Look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, his rookie year. He sucked for 6 weeks. Sucked. Useless, right? Then he was awesome. Then he was like wide receiver like 5 for the second half of the year. Odell Beckham was hurt to start his rookie year, hamstring, got in, played a couple games, didn't do a damn thing, and then he was just ripped everyone's faces off. Mike Evans. Mike Evans was healthy his rookie year. He was a first-round pick. Didn't do a whole lot early on. Awesome for the second half of the year. So sometimes that's how it happens. We're hoping it happens for Rashee Rice. That's what we're hoping. Isaiah Pacheco, he's still the man. He got despite being hurt, he got all the important work. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, garbage time boosted up his numbers there. So it looks like one guy got 15 carries, one guy got 14. Not quite how it worked. If the Bears were even a normal team in any capacity, then it would have continued to be Isaiah Pacheco. But they took Patrick Mahomes out of the game. So Blaine Gabbert played 21 snaps. So whoever plays with Blaine Gabbert, loser. And that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Sorry, Clyde. It's true. It's true. You're a loser. But Jerick McKinnon, still kind of interesting. But Pacheco's the guy we want. Las Vegas Raiders. This is where I tweeted it out this week, right? I said, Davante Adams is the number one trade target candidate for me. I didn't use the word buy low because you can't buy low on Davante Adams. I'm talking about paying full price for Davante Adams because I want him on my team because this team, the game scripts were terrible for them coming into this game. Only 54 dropbacks total. The Texans, 109 going into last week. 109. The Patriots, 106. 54, literally half. So I said, hey, this team's going to have some normal games. Last week, they only played 40 snaps. You know how weird that is? That never happens, dude. 65 is the average. 40 does not happen. 100 happens in overtimes and stuff like that. But 40 doesn't happen. 40 never happens. So the fact they played 40 was ridiculous. This week, they only played 62. So basically just average. And what happened? Fireworks. Davante Adams, 20 targets. Jacoby Myers, fantasy relevant for sure, with 12 targets. And just imagine what this team looks like when they do have an overtime game or when they do have a game where they go to 80 snaps. Like 5 or 6 teams this week went to 80 snaps on offense, right? So it's entirely possible that this team has even better games. I mean, 20 targets is obviously a ton for Davante Adams, but guess what? He's awesome. And I was saying all offseason, I even pulled up the reception perception. Shout out Matt Harmon. And I said, hey, people are like, oh, well, Jimmy Garoppolo can't throw it deep. So how's he going to get it to Davante Adams? I pulled up the chart tree, and every single route is green. And I'm like, which route can this guy not run? Right? You act like we're talking about Deshaun Jackson here. Whatever Jimmy G can throw, that's the route you have Davante Adams running. If he can only throw screens, Davante Adams is going to run 15 screens. It's just the playbook is get the ball to Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. That's always been the playbook. And now Jacoby Myers, also part of that. Hunter Renfrow is droppable maybe in all formats. Probably, definitely redraft. Dynasty probably too. And the tight ends, you're holding on to Michael Mayer in Dynasty, but you can't use either of them because they're just not playing the full game. 49 pass attempts, 33 for Austin Hooper. Michael Mayer only ran 19 routes. Forget about him. Don't worry about him. So that's what you got going on there. If you did go out and trade for Davante Adams like I told you to, congratulations. You're a genius, and you're probably super attractive and smart. So good job getting Davante Adams. Love you. Los Angeles Chargers, 66 snaps, smack average. Mike Williams probably done for the year is what we're hearing. Almost certainly, in fact. That's been the Mike Williams experience, man. He plays very hard. The way he plays, you can't blame the player, but just the way certain guys play, very conducive to, he's jumping everywhere. He's diving for stuff. You start with Javid Best for the Lions. Every run, he would get to the end of the run, and he would just jump. He would jump, or he would never go out of bounds. He would never go down. And it was, just very short, very short. I see you in the chat saying, do we panic on Josh Jacobs? No. You buy Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is awesome. He's played every snap, and this team will have better games. So get him in there, man. Get some Josh Jacobs. You want highly consolidated situations. You want as much Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs as possible. I'm telling you that right now, dude. You got to keep it right now. Yeah. Got to keep Hunter Renfrow in your encyclopedias sold league. Yeah, he does look he looks like he could be a pen salesman, right? But hey, Dustin Pedroia looked like that too, and he was a MVP of the league. I mean, Hunter Renfrow was a wide receiver 1. He finished wide receiver 12 in fantasy one year. You can never take that away from us, like goofy looking white dudes. Like we'll always have that. We'll always have Hunter Renfrow. We'll always have Dustin Pedroia. So shout out to the Kings. Shout out to the accountant looking Kings of the world. So back to the Chargers. Here's where we're at, man. You got to decide what you think is the right thing to do here. And Josh Palmer, in every single game, has not only played more snaps than Quentin Johnston, but has played double the snaps. So Keenan Allen's always going to be a guy. Keenan Allen's awesome. He got 20 targets this week. We were on Keenan Allen too. I retweeted the video. We're very good at this. Mike Williams, now that he's out, you got to decide. Josh Palmer's playing more snaps. Quentin Johnston is the high risk, high upside, exciting play, but he's just not playing yet. Last week he played fewer snaps than Darius Davis. If I need to start the player this week, it has to be Josh Palmer. But I'm just stashing the upside play, it's obviously Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston is probably going to go for more fab than Josh Palmer, just because Twitter, the buddies in your league. They're psychos. They only care about upside. They are irrational. They're obviously just going to go for the rookie. He's the shiny upside play. It's a lot more fun. People ask me if Donald Parham's a thing. No, he scores because he sneaks out because they forget about him. That's how they draw him up. Scamp, good morning, brother. Chat cat, what's happening, baby? That's Donald Parham is a DFS play at best, but he ran 17 routes to 24 for Gerald Everett, and Stone Smart even ran 10. Stone Smart is a guy. The people always ask who's the deepest tight end you have rostered. It's Stone Smart. I have him on a couple taxi squads just because. I mean, first of all, not part of it's his name is Stone Cold Smart, and that's badass. But he was a quarterback that converted to wide receiver, then converted to tight end. Those are guys that can break out late once they figure out the position. Very highly athletic players. Last week he caught a 24-yard catch. So very deep. Don't need to stash him in any sort of redraft league or in normal dynasty leagues that aren't like. But the league I have him in is like a best ball dynasty league with a taxi squad where you start it's like you have 30-man rosters plus a taxi squad. But just keep the name in mind. Stone Smart. The Stone Cold Stoner. That's right, brother. Joshua Kelly playing every single snap. Not that good. Austin Eckler is going to come back and he's going to go back to being dust anyway. But man, 12 yards and 11 carries. Ouchies, man. That's what happens when you don't believe in the player himself. It's why I wasn't really adding Justice Hill. It's why I wasn't really adding Joshua Kelly, is that I don't think the player is that good. Love League depends on the format. I've seen some crazy weeks. So I've definitely seen scores higher than 240 depending on the format. So, hey, if you're scoring, let me know who's in your lineup. I'll check it out. I think you did send it to me via DM, so I'll check that out. Rams playing tonight. Dolphins, we already talked about. Just hard to – Devon Achane you need to add in every league. Quentin Johnston, Devon Achane, probably the top ads for me. I still got to comb through it. It's still only Monday. But, it's hard to look at that game and really pull anything out of it because it was just an absolutely insane nightmare of a game for the Broncos. It was awesome for your Dolphins fan. The Vikings, 83 snaps this week, so above average. Again, you have to be very careful because you have 12 targets for Justin Jefferson, 11 for TJ Hawkinson. In a normal game, those are the only two fantasy relevant guys. In this game, we have 45 pass attempts. Jordan Addison also got 7 targets. We are waiting for the KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison flippening. It's going to come at some point. He's already getting more targets, but KJ Osborne played 77 snaps. Justin Jefferson played 78. Jordan Addison played 59. So he's still trailing behind. Man, when that does flip, it's full on wheels up. You can already start Addison in weeks like this. It was set up to be a shootout. They scored over 50 points in the game. So obviously you were getting him in there, but it's just not quite perfect yet. TJ Hawkinson, he's perfect. He's an angel. 11 targets. Oh, my God. Hawk, got to be feeling good about it. Alexander Mattison, bounce back week. I said it last week. I was like, Alexander Madison's locked in, and people in the chat were throwing, emojis, laughing emojis up, clown emojis. Alexander Mattison sucks. He stinks. Well, there's something to be said for a guy that is getting all the touches and every snap. This week with no Cam Akers, he was locked in again. He was a good start if you started him. Cam Akers, we'll have to see what he's going to do. I was surprised he was a healthy scratch because he played for Kevin O'Connell with the Rams. So he already has – they could have easily had a package ready to go for him this week of plays that he knows. So he will be up and running. We have to see what that split looks like. But Madison, for now, he looked fine. I'm rooting for the guy. The fact that he got all that hate on social media, that sucks, dude. I don't deal with it nearly the way he does, but I have people all the time being like, oh, dude, you stink. You had Sam Laporta ranked at tight end 10, and you should have had him at tight end 7. Unfollowing you and unblocking you, and never be friends. It's like, dude, just shut up. It's only a game. And same with Alexander Madison. The racist things that people were saying to him because he fumbled. Shut up, dude. Get a life. Seriously. This is what I do for work, and I don't take it that seriously. I take it very seriously, but not seriously enough to send threats at people. You outside your mind. That was matter with people. So Alexander Madison, you got to hold on to him until we see what happens with Cam Akers, but he could be droppable if there's a split there. Is what it is. Patriots beat the Jets. This was our Super Bowl as Patriots fans. Yes, we won. Super Bowl is over. We will have a parade. I'll lead it. 15-10. What a game. 15 points for the winning team. That's exactly what we expected in a cyclone between two mediocre games with bad quarterbacks. So that's that. Devontae Parker, he played every snap the previous week. This week, he led the team in routes run. Obviously, he was on the outside facing DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, which is an absolute nightmare. They don't go in the slot. Devontae Parker is a guy I'm sneaking onto benches. I'm adding him. I even said it last week. I said, hey, we're not adding him now because he's going to get vaporized. Now you go out, add him for free. I think that he's an interesting guy. He's playing a full snap share. He's going to have better weeks. Hunter Henry also going to have better weeks. He had 5 targets. He played a ton of snaps. He ran the most routes. Just so happened that Pharaoh Brown had the one play where he broke it for a touchdown. What are you going to do, man? He's going to have his weeks. Ramondre Stevenson, they split the carries to a certain degree, but Stevenson plays way more pass plays. 22 routes to only 8 for Zeke. So Stevenson in everywhere. Zeke, you throw him in wherever you can, wherever you feel like it, maybe DFS or whatever. I mean, he's a part-time player now. Legendary, all-time great running back that is a part-time player now. New Orleans Saints, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, they led the team in snaps, but this week Shaheed picked it up a little bit. He ran, so you had 35 routes for Olave, 34 for Thomas, 32 for Shaheed. He only got 1 target, though. He had the carry, and again, this guy just makes things happen. He is the best ball king of the world, right? Rashid Shaheed, that's where we were drafting him. In real leagues, we were taking Olave and Michael Thomas. In best ball, we were taking Shaheed because at any given time, this guy with his speed can score a touchdown. And pretty much every week, that's what he's been doing, right? Runs back was it a punt or a kick? He had a return this week for a touchdown. But Michael Thomas, 8 targets in each of the first 3 games. I'm just going to keep rolling Michael Thomas out as wide receiver 3. Like until they decide that Shaheed's going to play over him, I'm starting Michael Thomas. And it was 11 targets for Olave, 8 for Michael Thomas, 1 for Shaheed. I don't know. Our fantasy wishing, our yards per route run stats and explosive metrics, all that wishing doesn't matter if the coach is starting one guy over the other. So I'm sticking with Michael Thomas. Juwan Johnson, I told you guys, can't trust the guy, can't start the guy. Not unless wide receivers, plural, probably get hurt because now Alvin Kamara is coming back. And now that's just another guy getting targets, right? Taysom Hill doing his weird stuff and Jimmy Graham doing his weird stuff. And I'll tell you this right now. I refuse to answer Taysom Hill questions I have for a long time. And my answer every single time for going back for forever is is Taysom Hill. That's up to you if you want to start him. If you want to just give up, if you want to play standard or best ball and you just don't care and are cool with a coin flip and having no analysis go into it, then start Taysom Hill. But if you play in any sort of PPR and have any sort of pride for yourself, then go out and find the guys that are getting the usage or getting the targets, have the good matchups. In any sort of PPR, there's just too many options for me to ever start Taysom Hill. And this week, where there's no Jamal Williams and Derek Carr gets hurt during the game and Alvin Kamara is suspended, the fact that Taysom Hill did nothing should tell you that you need to cut it out. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop throwing him in there. Have some respect for yourself and your ability to analyze these games to the point where you're not just saying, oh, whatever, put it all on red, put it all on black. That's what you're doing when you start Taysom Hill. You say, I don't want to think about it, so I'll just throw this meme player in there, whatever. It's bad. It's burned. I just can't believe that people still do it. It's like every week there's a new crop of people that have never started Taysom Hill, and they're like, this is my turn. I guess there's 12 people in the league, and there's only one Taysom Hill. So it needs to happen 30 times for people to say, okay, I've played the Taysom Hill game. It stinks. I'm not doing it again. The worst thing that can happen to you is go to the casino and win. And the worst thing that happen to you is start Taysom Hill and have him score a touchdown because now you think that you've done something special where there's no way to predict where and when this guy's going to get targets. He got 1 but he doesn't really get targets. So there's no matchups, right? There's no way to look at it and say, oh, this team's bad versus the tight end, so I'll start Taysom Hill. This team's bad versus mobile goal line quarterbacks. That's not a stat. There's no stat that tells you where and when to start this guy. Just don't do it. So enough on that. Taysom Hill, dead to me. Tony Jones Jr. and Kendra Miller split, so doesn't matter. Alvin Kamara's back, and Alvin Kamara's awesome. Honestly, I have a bunch of leagues where I'm looking to be 3-0 with Kamara coming back. I'm about to get paid. That's big time, big money. Yes, scampers, I know. Can't gamble in the States. All you have is Taysom Hill. I think that is a good excuse. That's fair. New York Giants this week. They played on Thursday. It was ugly. Darius, of the wide receivers, I'm just rooting for Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson because I don't think these other guys are particularly good, to put it lightly. So I'm just gonna stash. I'm done with Isaiah Hodgins. Sorry, Dustin. I'm done with Paris Campbell and the rest of these guys. I'm just stashing Jalen Hyatt and I'm stashing Wan'Dale Robinson. And I'm just hoping that they can actually separate themselves because I've seen these other guys play and it's just not that good, man. And Isaiah Hodgins had 2 good games, both against the Vikings last year, but can't trust the guy. They only ran 50 snaps this week, so crazy below average. Darren Waller is going to be fine. I'm still starting Darren Waller everywhere. Darren Waller's a buy low for me because he goes out and he runs a bunch of routes and gets a bunch of targets, and he's a good player. So he's getting incrementally more healthy. So I'm actually buying Darren Waller. Yeah, I see you in the chat asking. No, not Darren Waller yet. I'm actively acquiring Darren Wallers. So how do you feel about that? There's people out there that drafted Waller and then added Laporta, and you can potentially get Waller. They're never going to give you Laporta. So try and get him, man. Hyatt is a fun player. Great best ball player. Fred Biletnikoff Award winner. So, yeah, Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale only played 11 snaps. He's getting ramped up. He might never do anything. Both those guys only played 16 and 11 snaps, but they're just more fun. More fun than the other options. New York Jets, pretty ugly, man. You feel for, even as a Patriots fan, I feel for Zach Wilson. I just want him to not be so terrible. I would love for him to just make better decisions, but it's just really rough. So it's bad for Garrett Wilson. It's bad for Allen Lazard. It's bad for Randall Cobb. You start Garrett Wilson where you have to. It's very difficult to start Allen Lazard or Tyler Conklin or anybody else. So, and the split for the good news on this team, you're not starting Tyler Conklin. I never want to hear a Tyler Conklin question ever. The good news for this team is that last week they split the snaps 3 ways between the running backs. This week they still did to some degree, but Breece Hall got 31 carries, 16 for Dalvin Cook, 15 for Michael Carter. So give me Breece Hall. Breece Hall finally separated himself a little bit, just a little something, and we'll take it. So give me the Breece Hall action. Dalvin Cook, tough to start moving forward. Eagles, Monday Night Football. Justin Hollis in the chat, what's up, man? Says, great content last week. Let's finish strong tonight. Dodging a huge game by A.J. Brown. Yeah, man. I got some spots where I got Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. Good game, better games this Monday than last Monday. So it should be a lot of fun. I was going to be on – let me just finish the snap counts here. We'll do a real quick look at those games. I don't want to go – we've already gone too far. I just want to make sure we finish each one of these games here. Steelers, 62 snaps. George Pickens, Allen Robinson, and Calvin Austin all played pretty big snap shares, man. Calvin Austin looks explosive. The problem is when Deontay Johnson goes back, Calvin Austin probably goes back to the bench. So George Pickens is the guy that you probably want here. Allen Robinson, Calvin Austin, spot starts, DFS plays until Deontay gets back. But, hey, you never know with Deontay. When you go on IR like that, everyone says you're going to be back in 4 games. That's not always the case. Sometimes they come off IR and they're just not ready to go. So got to keep that in mind, man. Calvin Austin, kind of fun, but, yeah, I don't know. He missed all last year. He's a 4th-round pick, so there's still a possibility. Still a chance there. Pat Freiermuth looked a little bit better, scored a touchdown this week, but still, Pat Freiermuth is always going to be a guy that's as good as Kenny Pickett allows him to be. When Deontay Johnson's out, we can throw Muth in lineups, but it's not what you want. You wanted Kenny Pickett to be awesome, therefore everyone else awesome. You wanted him to take a step forward like Trevor Lawrence. Obviously he's not Trevor Lawrence, but they're both first-round picks. They're both NFL quarterbacks. There was a possibility that Tua took a big step forward. It was on the table, and it doesn't look quite like it. So kind of sad there. Najee Harris is still the guy, but Jalen Warren's carving out some of that role for himself. Najee's still going to get the goal line, all that stuff, but Jalen Warren just looks more explosive. Jalen Warren is our new Tony Pollard, where Najee Harris is Zeke, and he gets the goal line, he gets pass blocking, he gets the 2-minute drill, And now Jalen Warren is the more explosive guy that we want to see play more. And that's just not how it works. They're just not going to give him the full role. They're just like they didn't give Tony Pollard the role. And Najee Harris is, I mean, he's a first-round pick. He's got time under his contract. They could even pick up his fifth-year option. So Jalen Warren could be a little bit stuck, But, yeah, Jalen Warren, man. We're all rooting for Jalen Warren. There's nobody sitting here saying that he's not good. Just like when Tony Pollard was there. Like, nobody was saying Tony Pollard isn't good. We just needed him to get the job. Maybe Mike Tomlin is the kind of guy that is willing to just say, hey, this guy is better statistically, but he doesn't seem like that kind of guy to me. He seems more the kind of guy that says the standard is the standard, which is his saying, and he's got a poster on the wall, right? He is the kind of guy that says, like, we have two players, we're going to use them both, right? So, I don't know, man. We need more Jalen Warren in the fantasy community, but we don't always get what we want. In fact, we rarely ever do. So, is what it is. Devon A-Chain, we're going to say the same things for him. 49ers, man, this is probably, I mean, it's crazy to think the 49ers and the Dolphins are probably the best two teams in football right now. They use the same offensive scheme, and they use a fullback on like 50% of the snaps. People told me fullback was dead. This week we had the best two teams essentially use a fullback on 50% of the snaps and a fullback at an 85-yard TD return. Bring back Anthony Sherman. Bring back, what was the guy for the Packers? Kuntz. Bring all the old fullbacks back. Bring back Lorenzo Neal, Tony Richardson, Earn Dog in the chat. Shout out a fullback in the chat. Let's go. Patrick Ricard, where you at? Andrew Beck. What's up, boys? Let's go. Get the big dogs in there. Let's get the neck rolls out. So Mike Allstott, John Kuhn. That's when I was looking for scams. Yeah, shout out some fullbacks in the chat. Let's get the fullbacks going, baby. Right? James Devlin. What's up, dude? What's up? Neck roll, baby. James Devlin in the house. Let's go, dude. Let's go. But yeah, 49ers, we know who the main characters are. It's Debo, Ayuk when he's healthy. George Kittle is he's fine. He's going to have good weeks, especially with Ayuk out, but he's more of a handcuff plus type player. There you go. Now they're coming in, dude. Maurice Carth, I don't even know who that one is. Mike Tolbert, one of my all-time favorites, dude. John Ritchie. Yes, dude. Larry Sanders, technically a fullback. Larry Sanders had a 100-yard receiving season. 100 reception season as a fullback, dude. Larry Sanders played for the Cardinals and the Patriots, maybe a couple other teams. Daryl Johnston. Yeah, baby. Let's go, dude. Let's go. Shout out to the big boys. So you know who the guys are. Christian McCaffrey's the man. Elijah Mitchell, doesn't really play a whole lot, so is what it is there. Seattle Seahawks come out 75 snaps this week, so a little bit above average. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are your full-time players. They both get 7 targets. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a part-time player. Told you guys. Peyton Hill is not a fullback, dude. He was on the cover of Madden, but he probably should be. He probably should have been a fullback, but not a fullback, not quite. So I told you guys, Jackson Smith-Njigba would probably start like Chris Godwin. And if you can buy him cheap, like you could Chris Godwin the first 2 years, I would do it. I would do it because Chris Godwin was stuck behind Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans, and he was playing a partial snap share. And then once Deshaun Jackson moved on, it was wheels up. And he was playing the Cooper Kupp. I called it the Chris Godwin role earlier. Jackson Smith-Njigba right now is in the Tyler Boyd role. He comes out for 2 wide sets. The upside's not really there. Once Tyler Lockett ages out, he's over 30 now. I think he turns 31 tomorrow. When is Tyler Lockett's birthday? I think it's in 2 days. So Tyler Lockett will turn 31 years old on Thursday. So it's coming up, right? And according to Twitter, those guys just fall off a cliff. They fall into a volcano when they turn 31. But I think Tyler Lockett's probably got a little football left in him. So Jackson Smith-Njigba at some point will take over that role, but it's not going to happen just quite yet. Kenneth Walker, this is what I was talking about earlier. Kenneth Walker's awesome. Scored 2 touchdowns, 38 snaps. Zach Charbonnet, 32 snaps. So it went from, I know the game script was in their favor to give those guys a chance, but sometimes what happens is if you give those guys a chance and they look good, now they start doing the thing they do where they say, we have 2 good players, so we're going to use 2 good players. And Kenneth Walker appreciates that. He's not going to, unless your contract has crazy incentives, I think it's nice to split the work sometimes, right? And Charbonnet played more. He ran more routes than Kenneth Walker. That's why Kenneth Walker, the trade from Jamar Chase, that's what was in the chat earlier. Do it. You got to do it, dude. So I'm fully in on that. Tampa Bay Buccaneers will play tonight. Tennessee Titans played, and it was a pretty Titans game. Only 47 snaps, just grotesque. Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins were the dudes. Chig Okonkwo needs an injury to one of those two players to be relevant. Nick Westbrook-Akine is not somebody you're starting in. It has to be insanely deep league. And then, Derrick Henry did his thing, but because they were losing by so much, they leaned on Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears played 27 snaps to 17 for Henry. Henry is the early down back. Spears will play some pass work, especially in nightmare situations that we've seen. Derrick Henry, you still start every week. Can't really start Tajay Spears. And very last team here, Washington Commanders. 54 snaps, so not the right game script. But still, they threw enough. Sam Howell, though, not great, dude. Not great, Bob. I mean, he's still fun. Sam Howell is at least fun to watch. Zach Wilson, not fun. Not fun to watch. It's really sad, actually. At least Sam Howell's out there run, that 18-yard run, spin move, let's go, 4 interceptions. I mean, I'm not a Commanders fan, so yeah, interceptions are awesome. Like, I like watching Sam Howell play, for good or for worse. I mean, the throw to Terry McLaurin, obviously amazing. This week didn't look amazing, but still makes the game fun to have guys like that. Ryan Fitzpatrick was fun to watch play. He would throw pick sixes and chuck it up deep and throw with his eyes shut and his helmet falling off. And it wasn't always pretty, but it was fun, So Sam Howell, Scott, he was awful, dude. Yeah, of course he was terrible, but he did it in a fun way. Zach Wilson was awful in a sad way. Sam Howell was awful in a fun way. Huck it, chuck it. I'm just gonna run here, whatever type way. So Sam Howell will be fine. People take my comments on Sam Howell earlier this year the wrong way. I just said that he's not going to be a rushing quarterback. He's not going to run for 700 yards, which of course he's not going to. But people were like, oh yeah, the rushing upside. I'm like, what's the rushing upside of this guy? He can make a fun play every once in a while. That's what it was. And it doesn't mean I hate the guy. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not rooting for him to throw 4 interceptions. I never was. People just took that to mean like, oh, that I don't like the player. He's fine, dude. Brett Favre, yeah. Brett Favre used to end every season with an interception. Still a fun player to watch. Huck it, chuck it, football, baby, let's go. So Jahan Dotson, 51 snaps. Terry McLaurin, 44. Curtis Samuel, 42. Curtis Samuel, unless he's getting a carry, at least a carry every week, I just can't start him, and he's just not that guy right now. So it's McLaurin and Dotson. Cole Turner is interesting whenever Logan Thomas is out. We knew that. We had him in the DFS. He finished an inch short of a touchdown. Which would have paid off for us in DFS. He still did okay. He probably, for whatever his cost was, he probably still gave us whatever that was worth back, but it could have been better. Cole Turner, fun player. Definitely on our radar in Dynasty because Logan Thomas, he's hurt again. It's not his fault. He got popped. It's like, it's not like this is it's never your fault when you get hurt. You know what I mean? But like, it's not his fault they got hurt, but he's an injury prone guy. And at a certain point, guys like that, I just got to say, you know what, I'm done. Antonio Gibson got more, Antonio Gibson ran 28 routes to 6 for Brian Robinson. So there is a world where Antonio Gibson plays a ton. It's when games where the Commanders are going to get crushed, but he still can get a lot of carries. So kind of rough. Yeah, Dotson's been invisible, man. Scott Frankel, I see you in the chat. So tough. Yeah. Do I start positional guys over Zach Wilson? I start positional guys over quarterbacks all the time. Like, I'm going to start Desmond Ridder. No, dude. I have too many good players, dude. Too many good players to start. Like that's the point. That's the reason it's super flex and not 2 QB. So that's that. That's the recap for this week. For the games tonight, excited to see what's going to happen. I was really in on Chris Godwin, but the more I read about James Bradbury, potentially he was like all offseason they trained him in the slot. So he might just follow Chris Godwin around, follow him in the slot, follow him wherever he goes. I'm thinking maybe it's a Cade Otton game tonight. I think last I checked, you could get a Cade Otton anytime TD like plus 220. So Cade Otton. You can get a Cade Otton to anything over 2-1. If you get him like plus 245 on anytime TD, that's a play tonight for me. I'm feeling good about it. And the Eagles, they've led up 3 touchdowns to the tight ends. Of course, it was Hunter Henry and TJ Hawkinson, so not Cade Otton. But Cade Otton's getting like 6 targets a week. So Cade Otton is the play of the night there. Get ready. You got to get set up. On Friday, we're going to do a MyFFPC, another lineup. Go to myffpc.com, use promo code Coop. They'll give you 25 bucks when you deposit 35 or more. Get all set up there and get ready to go because we're going to have Sam Wagman on Friday. Just a fun guy, man. All smiles all the time and a lot of great info, man. Those football guys, those are football guys. So it'll be fun to have them on. Get excited for that. That's about it for us. We're going to take off. No Brits Blitz today. Brits Blitz will return on Friday, though. Britt will be on with us tomorrow for Lightning Round. She's back, baby. We are back up and running. Shout out Britt Flynn. For me, for Earn Dog, this has been Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco. Follow me on Twitter at CoopAFiasco, and let's win some leagues. Enjoy football tonight. 2 games going, baby. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in.